So, can I engrave this tumbler? Or this 20-ounce Yeti? Or this big tumbler? Or maybe one of these big 40-ounce Stanleys or Sims? Wine tumblers? Mugs with handles? What about dog bowls? How big? So, can the bolt engrave all of these different items? It's a great question. A question I had for months before I purchased it. I'm going to try to answer it for you today, here on LaserNug. Kind of takes me back to some of the research I'd done amongst a number of different types, brands, makes, and models and sizes of lasers as I continued to narrow down my search and eventually purchased this bolt. I had a reasonable ability to ascertain surface area. So when I was looking at the dimensions or the specs on different lasers, surface area was pretty easy to understand. The bolt, for example, has a 12 by 20 inch surface area. It's the size of the honeycomb. That I could relate to. But the depth on these machines was a little more difficult to ascertain. It's not that I couldn't relate to or understand 4.3 inches of depth or Z-axis. What I was trying to determine is what size of tumblers or bowls or cylindrical objects could I insert into the bolt and successfully engrave, given the fact that you're going to have a rotary device and that's going to take up space, and you're not sure how well that laser head is going to pass over your rotary device, whatever brand you buy. That was the difficult part for me. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you the things that I have been engraving on the bolt. So hopefully that helps you if you're looking at lasers right now. And if you've got a bolt and you're considering a rotary, hopefully this gives you an idea of what you can and cannot do with it. Let's do it. So I think we all know that if you're going to be engraving tumblers or any type of cylindrical device, you're going to need a rotary attachment. That means that you're going to want to be able to put this bed down as far as it'll go. So let's start off by dropping our Z-axis all the way. There's the beep. That means I've reached the very bottom of the axis. I'm just going to touch it up 1 millimeter, but that's your clearance for using a rotary device, including any type of item or any size of item you try to put in there. Second thing, the specs on this bolt say that we only have 4.3 inches of depth or Z-axis. That's measured from the top of this honeycomb table to the bottom of what I would offer is the focused laser height above whatever material you're using. You might be thinking the same I did. It looks like it's a lot deeper, and I think that's because visually it looks like there's a lot of volume of space in there. But let me measure it for you. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the laser head and I'm going to bring it closer to the front of the window here. You can see the bottom of the plunger for the autofocus is right here above my finger. Let's drop a tape down beside it. Yeah, it's only 4.3 inches of usable space. So at least now we know what our restrictions are. Or do we? We know we need a rotary device. I bought a PiBurn grip. In fact, at the time I purchased it, late last year, it was called the PiBolt because it was redesigned and it was a model made specifically to fit in the bolt. And it does. By the time that this video airs, you'll probably have seen the announcement by Lens Digital that they've now made another different model specifically for the bolt. It sits on aluminum rails and uses magnets. I'm not sure if that's going to provide more depth or more capacity for tumblers or round cylindrical objects or not. I haven't seen the specs on it. But for now, this is the grip or the rotary that I've purchased. That needs to sit in the bolt. So I'm going to try to get you right into the action. We're going to start with the bowls. The reason why is because I've already got those grips attached. So let's try to see if we can get a bowl to fit into this space. This is the smallest pet bowl I've been able to uncover. Let's just put her back onto the grips. Lock her in. And then let's take a look and see what happens with our laser head. Okay, remember our Z-axis is as low as possible. This is a 6 3/8 to 6.5 inch bowl. I'm just going to slowly move my head over here because I don't want to cause any damage. Hopefully you can see that laser head is not going to go over the top of this bowl. So we know we can't do 6.5 inch pet bowls. At least not without a little help. We'll get to that. I'm going to change up my grips and we're going to put a few tumblers on here. I'll be right back. So now we're going to try kind of a standard 4-inch tumbler. Has the big taper on the bottom here. What I've had to do is I've taken my stepper motor and I've dropped it to the very bottom hole on the bracket so I can get it down as low as possible. I've also changed the grips because these types of cups have a ridge in there, so I want the short grips. I'm going to place it on there. Almost forgot my glasses. There we go. Okay, we've got it on. Excellent. I'm just going to move you over and let's see what happens to our laser head here. Again, always be really careful. Watch out for these, either the mast to the left or these brackets to the right. Okay, I'm just going to bring it over. I'm going to see if I have room. Oh, isn't that nice? So if I were to autofocus that, just give me 1 second. Excellent. So I can engrave that right on the honeycomb without any assistance. So we know now that I can safely engrave a 4-inch standard tumbler. It's a 27 ounce. This is a no-name brand, but it's 4 inches in diameter. That's what matters. Very safely without assistance on the honeycomb directly. That means I can take this Polar Camel wine cooler, my Yeti 20 ounce, skinny tumbler, which I think they call them now. I believe this is another standard Polar Camel. I think it's a 20 ounce. It might be an 18 ounce. And I can take my 18.5 ounce no name here as well. I can also do glassware. I just haven't tried yet. But anything up to that 4-inch diameter, that's pretty much a standard cylinder or a tapered cylinder, we're safe to engrave right on the honeycomb with a rotary device, or at least with this PiBurn grip rotary device. Not bad. But what about mugs? They're less than 4 inches in diameter. They've got a handle. Whether it's glass, whether it's enamel, or one of these big 40-ounce tumblers, that's 4 inches or less, but has a big handle on it. In this particular case, the handle can be removed. So let's just focus on mugs. Let's give it a shot. So I've taken my stepper motor and I've moved it up 2 notches on this side bracket so I can get it up high enough that the handle will clear the honeycomb and won't hit. That'll give me close to 360 degrees of rotation. No matter what you use, you're not going to be able to get the head over the handle, but you shouldn't be engraving over this handle anyways. On the large 40-ounce Stanley, or the Sim in this case, the handle gets removed, so that's not a problem. Let's see what happens now that I have the cup up high enough to clear the honeycomb. Let's see what happens with the laser head and see if it can clear it. Again, always very carefully. There's my head. Yeah, and that's not coming anywhere near it. No chance we're doing that mug in here. Here's a side view for you. Just grab my nudge commands here so I don't hurt anything. No mugs. At least, not without assistance. So how did I do it? Well, it wasn't magic, but I'll show you what I found. So if you can follow me onto the internet for just a second, pull up Thunder Laser Canada's website. That's thunderlaser.ca. Across the main menu at the top, scroll over to blog, click on blog, and then scroll down until you get to the 3rd row, and on the far left here you'll see there's an article regarding Lens Digital's PiBurn grip. I believe it's specifically for the bolt. Yeah, click on that. And if you just scroll down a little bit under that main advertisement or that picture, you'll see underneath the paragraph it says, please note, they've designed a tray. I believe it's commonly referred to as a drop tray, but there's a file there you can download, and I believe it gives you the specifications and the details on how you can build your own drop tray to fit into the bolt to provide you more depth than you're currently able to get with the honeycomb. It says here that it's designed for 3 mil or 1/8 inch MDF or similar. So that's one option. The other option, which I chose, is to buy one. Let me show you what I've got. It's a drop tray. It's called the RoKoTwister. It's made by a gentleman named Robert down in the US. He's got a YouTube channel as well as a website. It's called Computer Creations, Creations with a Z. And it's built to fit exactly into the structure on that Z-axis frame. Let me show you how it works. Shut your machine off. First step, remove your honeycomb. And of course, you want to be careful not to hit the laser head. Take note that on the bottom of your honeycomb on the front side, you'll notice there are pins. And that's what holds it specifically in its exacting spot on the Z rails below it. That RoKoTwister is going to sit right back on these same rails that your honeycomb sits on. I'm going to slide this tray in. And we're going to secure it into place with 2 carriage bolts, which go through the same holes as your honeycomb do. That means it won't move and it'll stay firmly in the spot parallel to the gantry. So it rests flat onto the structure for the Z-axis or the honeycomb. It'll provide you another couple of inches of depth. It also has a cutout here. So if you're engraving any type of objects that have a handle or any other type of an adjustment, it provides some space so that as the object turns, that handle has somewhere to go. It comes with 2 locking clamps as well as a spacer on the side. And there's even a few parallel score marks. They're parallel to the gantry. So let's get this grip in there and let's test it out on a mug. Okay, initial pass. I can line it up to any one of these score marks and that'll give me a good indication of whether or not I'm parallel. It's a good place to start. And that's usually where I start. I'll take my clamps and I clamp it down into place. And you'll see you can set it up anywhere on this tray, and preferably if we're using mugs, I've got it right over the hole here. Let's grab a mug. Okay, mug is on. Let's give her a spin. Because I've got the cutout in the bottom here, I can even drop this stepper motor down at least 1 more notch on the bracket because I've got lots of room and lots of clearance here on either side. I can move this grip horizontally or vertically within the tray wherever I need to move it to make the object fit. Let's see what happens when we bring the laser head over it. So employing a drop tray into your bolt is going to give you much more Z-axis clearance, which in turn is going to allow you to engrave larger diameter cylinders, bowls, cups, etc., as well as oddly shaped cylinders such as a mug with a handle. Let's just see how big a diameter we can put in here. Well, I know you guys know I can already do this one, but this one is 6 3/8 inches in diameter. We're just going to throw it onto the grip. I can also move this down 1 more notch, but let's just leave it there. 6 3/8 inch. And let's bring in our laser. bring it across. And I'm going to use my nudge command here. And as you can see, we have plenty of room on that to engrave it. So that's 6 3/8 inch in diameter. Let's move up a notch. Our second bowl here is 6 3/4 inches in diameter. I had to lift my Z axis up to get clearance in the space here by the drop pan below. And I also had to take my stepper motor and I dropped it down 1 notch on its height bracket. Let's load her up. Okay. She's locked and loaded. Let's bring in the laser. And once again, that's 6 3/4 inches. Lots of room. We could safely engrave that bowl. Let's try one bigger. This one, 7 1/4 inches. I know for sure I can't move the stepper motor down any further because I'm not going to clear this. I need space below, and I don't want to lift it higher unless I have to. Let's mount the bowl and see what happens. Okay, that bowl's not going to fit, so I'm going to have to move the stepper motor up. It's pretty simple. You just remove these thumb screws and lift it up the bracket. Okay. Take 2, 7 1/4 inches. Okay, so far so good. I've got clearance. Okay, yeah, so we are clear below, and we're clear against the rail of the PiBurn. But I have a little bit of space below, so I'm going to drop my Z back down just a little further, because I can. And that's at its dead stop at the bottom. We're still good, but I can't put it down further. I have space. Let's bring in the laser. Okay, and that I think is a little bit too large, because I will have, yeah, that's not going to work. Not going to work. So I am not at the apex of that point, and I'm already going to be running my autofocus plunger into the side of that bowl. Okay. Let's wrap this up. So I think we have it. There we go. We're good up to 6 3/4 for sure. We're definitely not good at 7 1/4. So based on that space, or how tight that autofocus plunger was to the side of this bowl, I'm thinking you could probably get away with anything that's 7 inches in diameter. So whether they're kitchen bowls or wooden bowls, tumblers, pet bowls, I think that gives you a pretty good firm understanding of what can be done with the bolt and what can't. So hey, I just wanted to finish up the video today on one last note. I know there's probably a few of you out there thinking, GP, you could have just done that video in 3 or 4 minutes and got it over with. And you're right, I could have. However, I know there's people out there probably like myself. It's great to glean as much information as you can, and when somebody tells you something or states something, it's one thing. But if you can see it with your own eyes, I think it just provides a little bit of confidence to whatever facts or information you're gathering. And me, I'm kind of a see it kind of guy. I like to see what people are telling me. So I hope it was helpful for you good folks. We've learned something new about the bolt, kind of have maybe a better understanding of the constraints or the abilities of this small little desktop laser if you've got the right equipment or the right accessories. I think we now have a good understanding of what it can do without a drop tray and what more you can do with a drop tray. Have a great week out there. Thank you very much for hanging around with me today. Please be kind to each other, and I'll see you again right here. I'm Gord Potter, and you've been watching Laser Nug. Cheers.